Welcome to Business Voice, a program of the Greece Regional Chamber of Commerce. Each month, we'll feature business and community leaders sharing their stories, initiatives, concerns, and passions. Learn practical information regarding community resources and opportunities. Now, the host of Business Voice, Greece Regional Chamber President and CEO, Sarah Lentini.
Hi, everybody. You're listening to Business Voice, a program of the Greece Regional Chamber of Commerce, sponsored by Bartolomeo and Parado Funeral Homes. I'm Sarah Lentini, your host. I'm also the president and CEO of the Greece Regional Chamber. We've got a wonderful show for you today, starting with my first guest, New York State Assemblyman Josh Jensen. Welcome, Josh.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Happy to be back with you and your listeners.
Yeah, wonderful to have you back on the show. And we've been having you come and talk with chamber members several times in recent months. And the focus has been on the most recent legislative session. Session recently ended, if I understand correctly, and you guys have been hard at work, and we're all ears if you want to tell us some highlights of what's been accomplished.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the opportunity, and certainly not just today, but the opportunity throughout the year to speak to members of the chamber. And I think when I've been, this is my third year in the state assembly, and I think when I talk to folks across not just Greece, Ogden, and Parma that I represent, but across Greater Monroe County, what I hear a lot about is sometimes the disconnect between what's going on with the legislative process in Albany and how people who live here in our community actually hear about it. And so any opportunity to help raise awareness, because, one of the ways that sometimes we see New York State, the legislative process, a little bit out of touch is it's very dominated by either statewide issues or issues that are specific to the downstate area, the New York City area. And so being able to make sure that the people that I represent, that I serve, know a little bit more about how the decisions myself and my colleagues are making, whether they're votes for or votes against, is critically important, because we need to have more and more people plugged into how the actions of the state affect every aspect of your life, especially if you own a business and are trying to, keep that afloat and thriving and growing in a state that sometimes isn't the most business-friendly place to call home.
Great. Thank you very much for that overview, and also for making clear the parts of our community that you represent directly. Speaking of, a business-friendly climate, what sorts of things are happening at the state level to try to make the state more attractive to businesses?
Well, I think a big thing that we're going to have to deal with, and I think businesses are going to be affected by this in a very large way, is that our state budget, in the budget we passed earlier this year, was a $219 billion budget, one of the largest government expenditures of any government in not just the country, but in the world. And what we're looking at for next year is the comptroller's estimating at this point a $9 billion budget deficit.
Wow.
So New York State typically doesn't rescind how they spend money. They typically grow and grow and grow, and at least that's been the case the three budgets that I've been a member of the Assembly for. And so when we're talking about how the actions of New York State could affect businesses, I think as we look to next year's budget, we have to be very cognizant, because we've got a level of spending right now. We're going to be losing some of that expected revenue. And the question that every legislator is going to have to deal with is, are we going to cut existing programs, or are we going to look to raise revenue? And one of the concerns that I have is that the state is going to look to raise revenue, and they're going to do it on the backs and out of the pocketbooks of businesses. And that's something that I want to, will continue to seek to advocate, that we have to keep our state, from a spending perspective, as efficient and effective as possible, and that every dollar spent should be accounted for and ensured that it's in the best interest of all 20 million New Yorkers.
Absolutely. That's staggering. Both numbers are staggering. The $219 billion budget that just passed, which I trust must be the largest budget that New York State has ever passed. Is that true?
It is a new, I've been in office 3 years. In all three budgets that I've been a part of, it set a new record for government spending. And certainly, budgets are a statement of priority. And in a budget that large, there's certainly things in there that I support. Things like, spending more resources on education, investing in healthcare. But a lot of those things, we're spending money without knowing the true effectiveness of it. And we're creating new programs that need recurring funding when we don't necessarily know the true cost of those programs. And right now, our state's Medicaid program, which provides health insurance for people living in a certain level of poverty, I think it is estimated that it's about $109 billion. So over almost half of our budget is spent just on costs of Medicaid alone.
Wow.
And as somebody who serves as the ranking Republican, the ranking member of the Assembly Health Committee, that's something that I think we need to get under control to help get our state's budget under control.
Wow. Well, you just said a whole lot of things that are, it seems to me, critically important. So, and I want to make sure that I've understood. So you're saying out of a budget of $219 billion that was just passed at the state level, did I understand that $109 billion of it?
That's the latest estimate from the comptroller in the Department of Health, but it's right around $100 billion. So around half of our state's budget goes exclusively to paying for Medicaid. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, pardon me, but I guess I thought Medicaid was a source of funds that would come to the state as opposed to being something the state has to pay. I think I'm missing something here.
So the state administers it. There's some federal money that comes in, but the state has the money, and we have to allocate it. We have to appropriate it. And it gets determined about how we reimburse costs for Medicaid recipients, so those New Yorkers who are receiving Medicaid. And certainly that's an obligation that is coming from the federal government. You have the Medicaid system, Medicare being a federally administered program, but Medicaid being a state program. And that's why, we have legislation that will come before us sometimes where we want to expand what Medicaid can cover. And if we're talking about having state spending be efficient and effective, I think the Medicaid system is a perfect place to start. We need to ensure people have access to health coverage, whether that's through an employer offered plan, whether that's through the New York State marketplace, where people can get private insurance on the marketplace, whether it's through the Essential Plan, Child Health Plus, or Medicaid if they're living, if somebody's living in poverty. But right now, the eligibility guidelines and the check to ensure that only the people who need it most are receiving it doesn't exist. So right now we have an overextended Medicaid program, but then you look at our providers like nursing homes who don't have the true cost of care reimbursed. So sometimes they're only getting paid 75 cents on the dollar for what the true cost of care is, but yet you have a lot of people in the state who may be receiving Medicaid who may not be the most appropriate payer source for the amount of income they have personally.
So if I'm understanding correctly, it's not as simple as I might have thought. It's not as though Medicaid funds come from the federal level to the state, and it's not like all 109 billion is such a big word, right? It's such a big amount. So it's not like all $109 billion the state's budget connected to Medicaid is all coming, first from the feds to the state to cover the $109 billion in the budget.
So there is some of that money that does come in.
But not all necessarily.
The federal government does approve what it can be spent on. Okay. So there's some things where if there's some exciting things that are going to be announced later in August about community health. Mm-hmm. And sometimes organizations can apply for a waiver to the state and the federal government where they can access Medicaid funds for a purpose that isn't necessarily
normal,
aimed
regular.
At, right.
Yes.
Yeah, and so some of that money does flow from the federal government, but it goes in the state's coffers, so the state's responsible for administering it. But that is part of our total appropriations because all the money that we have coming in, whether it's through tax dollars or through federal funds, do go into the general fund to be allocated by the legislature.
Okay. So bottom line is very large budget, largest state budget ever, and half of it is connected to Medicaid, which is a complex area and possibly an area for, review and potential efficiencies. And then you said something else that's pretty staggering, and that is that it's already being estimated by the New York State Comptroller's Office that there'll be a $9 billion deficit. And that means, like, we're already there. There's a $9 billion deficit. When is that likely to put the state and legislators such as yourself and the executive office, obviously, into a position of having to figure out what to do about this deficit? I mean, one could argue it should be happening now. So how does that work?
Yeah, you would think that responsible governance would have us looking at that now, but I'm not sure that's actually the case. It'll certainly become a lot more real once we get into January in the new year, because that'll be when the governor has to start preparing her budget presentation to the legislature. And subsequently to that, both the Senate and the Assembly hold joint hearings to question her budget priorities and how she's choosing to propose we spend those taxpayer dollars. So certainly if the tax receipts at the end of this year are matching the deficit that the comptroller is projecting, then certainly I'm going to be very curious. I know my colleagues from both parties will be very curious to see how the governor will be proposing that we do this. What I think would be a common sense way is that we have to have a full audit of every dollar of all $219 billion that we spent this year, to find out, is there inefficiency in how we're spending the money? Is there things that right now the government's spending money on that maybe the private sector, the not-for-profit sector, can do it a little bit better? Certainly, I think that I don't know if we've ever had that type of forensic audit and really thought about that. But certainly there are things that we have to ensure that we're spending our taxpayer dollars as efficiently and effective as possible, because people are voting with their feet. They're choosing to leave where the cost of living, the cost of doing business is a little less. And I, for one, would like to keep more of those people here in our community and here in our state.
Yeah, and certainly people and businesses. I mean, there's a combination here of, and it's not just individuals, but also businesses, and certainly we do hear often a concern about the taxes here in the state of New York, and how difficult it is to bear to deal with the tax structure that exists. So what other sorts? I mean, that already sounds like a very major issue, and it's interesting that health care represents half of. This isn't even all health care, is it? It's just the Medicaid portion of it.
It's just the Medicaid portion, and I think something that may be coming down the pike. Not dealing with it right now, so to speak, but I think in the new year it's going to be a very loud conversation, is there's a push right now, or beginning, to enact something called the New York Health Act, which would establish a universal single-payer health care program that would cover all 20 million New Yorkers. So essentially what this piece of legislation proposes is an elimination of private health insurance in New York State, and essentially creates a Medicaid for all program for every New Yorker, including people who are retirees from public service. If you work in municipal government, state government, and retired to a different state, they would be covered as well. And that's estimated to be a $90 billion to $200 billion additional cost if this piece of legislation were to pass.
Wow.
And it would also outlaw all private insurance, so anybody who works for an insurance provider would be out of a job.
Goodness, that sounds like quite the conversation, and that's likely to emerge by January as well.
Yes, that's when the legislative session begins again. Certainly, we could be called back by the governor or by the speaker at any moment, and it wouldn't surprise me if we do get called back to deal with a couple outstanding issues. But I think this is going to be a very major topic of conversation very quickly, because there's a lot of downstate interest, specifically in New York City, about getting to this type of healthcare system. And certainly we want to ensure that everybody has access to healthcare coverage in the most efficient and possible way. But I think the last estimates where about 95% of all New Yorkers do have health insurance. And so I think that we can find a place where we can help get those last 5% of people to receive health care coverage. But I think completely socializing and having the state take over health insurance is not the best way. Certainly if you look at the rollout of the legalization of marijuana, New York State's struggling to figure out a way to sell drugs legally. The last thing I want is them now taking over completely our healthcare industry as well.
And speaking, I mean, maybe this is a good place to segue just to another topic. I don't think we'll ever do justice to the conversation about healthcare. It's a big, deep topic. Thank you for giving us some highlights of it. What is happening with the state's involvement in the new marijuana industry? It sounds like there's some potential roadblocks there. Yes. Yeah,
there's certainly some. It seems like every time there gets to be a new step or a new announcement that there is a court case that kind of resets the board. So there was, I believe, a court case, a court order that halted some of the retail licensing that was actively taking place, which means that as of this moment speaking, that because of a court order, there's no new marijuana shops that are being able to open. So if a community has said that that's something they want to allow, the court order has essentially blocked that. And this was something, the legalization was certainly something that I didn't support. I didn't vote for the piece of legislation when it came before us, but I think now that it's in place, we're not going to put the genie back in the bottle. And I think we have to look at the entire industry as an industry and ensure that just like we would any other industry, that we're doing it in the best possible way to have success for the people who are participating in it while respecting the wishes of communities and the people who live in them. And it's one of those things that I think from the very beginning, we could have learned from some of the mistakes that other states have made. Certainly, I think some of the regulations need to be tighter. I think things like seed-to-sale tracking need to be mandated to ensure that we know where every piece of marijuana that's grown, we know what happens to it until it's sold to a consumer. So I think there's certainly reforms that could be made, and I think some of the rollout has been detrimental to ensuring that happens.
And I don't know if you're in a position to answer this question, but I think things are kind of confusing for the lay public. Is it legal? So it isn't clear. It sounds like it isn't clear whether it's legal to sell marijuana in New York State right now. Is that?
It's very confusing. I don't think just to the lay folks.
The lay
it's
public.
Very confusing.
Okay.
I think it's very confusing to everybody.
Okay.
And it's one of those things where I toured a local farm that is a marijuana farm, an illegal marijuana farm, and I asked a question about where do they get the marijuana plants from, the seeds, because you can't have them. You couldn't have them legally in New York, but they were growing them, and they joked it was like a Virgin Mary of a virgin birth of all these things, and that's one of the things that I think we could have learned from other ways. There's still questions about how everybody who's participating in this industry is going to be able to use banking, pay their taxes. So there's a lot of questions, and I think a lot of people are confused because you go in, you drive past a storefront, and you see them advertising for marijuana. We see on the news that certain businesses are being raided for illegally selling marijuana, and I think you don't really know who has a license to sell. Are you going to a place that's reputable? Is it somebody who's legal? You just don't know, and I think that's why the state needs to do a better job, should have done a better job with the rollout of this industry.
Well, goodness. And let me head into another topic that I think is of concern and possible confusion to the lay public, and I think there are a couple of different things that are interrelated here. There's certainly a lot of concern and discussion, not just in New York and not just in this country, about climate change. And also concern about responding to climate change and making some changes, some of them legislative, presumably tied to that, that will potentially move us from gas from cars that are exclusively, gas guzzling, I'll call them, to electric cars. I know the governor had set a deadline. I've forgotten what the date is for the sale of cars in New York State, being new cars at least, being all, none of them being gas engines. Similarly, there's some movement around gas stoves, and then I know that there are some concerns about prices of all sorts of power companies. I'm sure it's not just the one right here in our region. I assume they're all interrelated, and I wondered if you could speak a little bit about sort of this issue.
Yeah, certainly that's been one of the biggest topics that we've taken up this year in the 3 years that I've been in the Assembly, and I think that what we see from New York State right now happening is we see once again, unfortunately, the heavy-handed mandated role that state government thinks they need to play. We've seen, tremendous investment and priority setting into completely eliminating any sort of fossil fuel generation of energy and trying to divert to a completely clean, green energy grid. And I think the detriment to that right now is that we would have to increase, I think the last estimate I saw was we'd have to create 200% more energy on the grid using wind and solar to even get to where we are today. Wow. And that's not even anticipating the growing energy needs we'll have once the marketplace or through mandates starts to push more people to electric appliances, more electric cars, people having to charge in their homes. I had a conversation recently with a developer who builds gas stations, and they were they were looking at locating a new gas station in my assembly district, and he wanted to talk about it, and I said, well, have you thought about, right now, what's the model? He said, well, we're going to do pumps, and then we're going to have a convenience store. I said, well, are you going to do a little lounge? He goes, why would we do a lounge? I said, well, we have, the governor said, I believe it's 2035. She wants to make all no new gas-consuming new car sales. And my question is, so right now I can pull up to a gas station in under 5 minutes, I'm done. But if I have to pull up and I have to charge my electric car, that could take 30 to 60 minutes. Well, am I going to sit in my car during that? Am I going to just wander the aisles of the convenience store? And so I don't think our infrastructure, whether it's our commercial infrastructure, our power grid, our power infrastructure as a whole, is really in a place where we're prepared to deal with all these mandates that are being put in place to abide by our state's clean energy goals. And certainly to a degree, I think we are putting ourselves at an economic disadvantage to a degree because New York State accounts for very little. I think it's under 1% of all greenhouse gas emissions in the world. But yet we're trying to lead not just the nation, but the world in clean energy changeover. But yet you have China, who we rely on to build a lot of the equipment we need to abide by these goals, who are building coal power plants as quick as they can. You have cobalt, which is a key component of solar panels, being mined in the Democratic Republic of Congo using child labor and having these children maimed at 4, 5, 6 years old because they're mining this cobalt to meet our goals. So I think there is a true human rights issue. There is a economic disadvantage, and when we're talking about creating green energy, we're only talking about wind and solar. We're not talking about expanding our state's hydrogen capabilities, and we're not looking at our state's nuclear capabilities and saying, can we, nuclear is the cleanest of energy sources, but yet instead of growing that capability, the state has closed, and since I've been in office, closed a nuclear power plant that to make up the energy that it provided New York City, refired, I believe it was natural gas and coal power plants. So certainly if we're going to talk about clean energy, we have these goals we want to get to, these arbitrary goals, then I think the state should be looking at every possible way to get there, but also understanding that it should be market-driven and not through the heavy hand of state government.
In case you're just joining us, we're talking with New York State Assemblyman Josh Jensen, and he's been telling us a little bit about some of the key issues that are being worked on and discussed at the state level. And of course, Assemblyman Jensen, I know this is just these are just a couple, but three very important issues that you've shared a little bit with us today. What should people do? Before I let you go, I want people who are listening, who want more information, who maybe want to even participate in any dialogues that the public can participate in. What can people do? How can they connect with you? And what else would you recommend?
Well, I think the biggest thing that people need to do is just pay attention. Right now, we have a society that relies heavily on social media as a primary source of news and information, and certainly there's a time for social media. There's a time for the Facebook and the Twitter and everything else that's out there. I sound like a terrible millennial, but I think it's important that people pay attention when they see something on Facebook, when they see something on the news, and certainly the news, they can't cover things extensively as much as they want. They may read something in the newspaper. Don't be afraid to contact your elected official or elected officials to find out what's actually going on, what's the true case. And certainly for the people who live in the town of Greece or the town of Ogden or Parma, all parts of the 134th Assembly District, my door is always open. My email is always open. Calls. I'm answering the phones just right alongside my team here in the office. So people are always free to call my office in Greece, 225-4190. It's 2496 Westridge Road. You can't miss it. It smells like bread all the time because I'm between a Subway and a Salvatore's. Yeah. We're open 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. People are more than welcome to stop in or to send me an email if they just want to ask a quick question. It's jensenj@nyassembly.gov. Information is critical, and whether people may agree with the things I believe and represent my community for, or they disagree, I want people to make sure that they know that I'm a voice who's there to present them with factual information and to go to Albany and stand up for them and fight for our community's values.
Terrific. Thank you very much. New York State Assemblyman Josh Jensen, thank you so much for joining us here today on Business Voice.
Thank you, Sarah.
All right, don't go away. We're going to be right back. Don't flip that dial.
Funerals can be expensive. You may be surprised to learn that you can get Bartolomeo and Prado Funeral Homes 5-star service at a price you can afford. They understand one price doesn't fit all and strive to ensure that your needs are met within your budget. Their family of funeral homes are a part of helping to achieve that goal. But above all else, they promise quality service. The details are taken care of so you can focus on what's important. Find out more by calling Bartolomeo and Prado Funeral Home at 720-6000.
Need help with health insurance? The Greece Regional Chamber provides assistance with health insurance for businesses, nonprofits, families, and individuals throughout our region. We pride ourselves on the personalized service that we provide for our clients. Let us help you find health insurance plans that fit your needs and navigate the paperwork. Greece Chamber Benefit Partners, located at 2402 Westridge Road in Rochester, New York, offers a broad range of medical insurance plans for businesses, nonprofits, individuals, and families throughout the greater Rochester Finger Lakes region, working with insurance companies including Excellus Blue Cross Blue Shield, Univera, and MVP Healthcare. We can also help you access insurance plans through the New York State of Health, the official health plan marketplace. Again, you do not need to live or work in Greece to utilize our brokerage services. We serve the greater Rochester Finger Lakes region of New York State. Visit greecechamber.org to sign up for one of our free health insurance information sessions or schedule an appointment with one of our licensed brokers. Call 585-227-7272. 585-227-7272.
Depositing your money with Genesee Regional Bank helps strengthen the local community. That's because GRB lends its deposits so the community can grow and prosper. Genesee Regional Bank. Community banking, community building. Visit grbbank.com. Member FDIC.
Tune in anywhere. Live streaming to PCs and mobile devices at WYSL1040.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to Business Voice, a program with the Greece Regional Chamber of Commerce, sponsored by Bartolomeo and Pareto Funeral Home. I am Sarah Lentini, your host, also the president and CEO of the Greece Regional Chamber. Delighted to welcome my next guests. That's two people, Jason and Julie Toomey, who are the owners of Big Ash Fireplaces Stoves. Welcome, Jason and Julie. How you guys doing?
Good.
Good, thank you.
Good. Great to have you guys on the show. You are new to the show. You're new premium members of the Greece Regional Chamber. Thank you very much. And you're doing, a great business. And, of course, Big Ash Fireplaces Stoves is a name that's bound to catch people's attention, right? But what it boils down to, what is your business? What do you do?
We are essentially a small family-run business that specializes in chimney sweeps and inspections, but we also have a retail location, and we do all the installations of wood, gas, pellet, electric, and then we hope to maintain those units once we've installed them for life.
Oh, that's great.
And yeah.
So you do it all. You do installation, you do service, and it doesn't sound like there's any kind of stove that's left out. That was a pretty comprehensive list,
Yeah,
right?
we cover pretty much every fuel source.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I love the word chimney sweep because it's so, it's poetic.
Yes.
It takes me back to my childhood.
It is nostalgic.
And it immediately communicates what you do. Yes. And I think I said to Jason the first time I talked to him, and when you need a chimney sweep, you need a chimney sweep. I mean, there's no substitute, right? And are there many businesses that do what you guys do?
There's more than you'd actually think. It's just not something that's talked about anymore. I won't lie. When I was younger and, living on the east side and, we just had a gas furnace that came on and off. I never thought about anything else. Right. And now it's like, there's so much of a need for it, especially with people that are trying to get away from those high bills using wood or pellet or something like that. And us being the chimney sweep / technicians, we get in there and get it going for you.
Yeah, great point. I mean, this is a moment when, people are looking to save a few bucks. It's especially when it comes to, heating their homes and, fueling some other things in the home that require, I imagine, but you're really focused on the stoves.
Yep.
And so they've got to be very happy to see you come in, and there's probably growth in this arena. People are probably buying stoves these days, right?
It's an up and down thing, I think, ebb and flow, kind of deal. Like some people get nervous about it. Like, there's so much uncertainty with is natural gas going to be around. So like gas fireplaces and gas stoves have sort of taken a small dip, but like all of a sudden the wood industry has now gone back up where we saw a dip in that when gas was just so cheap. It's easy, it's clean, it's simple. You press a button, all of a sudden you got fire. It's a beautiful magic, if you will, that we get to play with.
Lovely. That's great. And how long have you guys been doing this? And how long have you been doing it together? Because that's a whole other question I want to ask. What's that like?
Oh boy. So he purchased the business in 2015, and I started working in February of 16. So we just celebrated 8 years.
Oh, wow.
Big Ash itself has been around for over 30 years. So
this is a business that you bought from somebody else. Mm-hmm. Is it a standalone business or a franchise? No, it's a standalone business.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
We're the only ones.
Long story short, we went to school to be teachers. We've always had that innate want to sort of help people. We loved working with kids and just seeing like the progression of people, and it was just really neat. But we couldn't find teaching jobs in the 2008-2010 area. So I was bartending to get through college and trying to make cash, and we became really great friends with the old owner. And he kept on trying to get me to be a sales guy. I didn't want to be a sales guy at all. And next thing you know, here we are. After that, I worked for him for about 2 years, really learned it, got a fire for the business, if you will, and started investing in education. I went to the Chimney Safety Institute of America. Wow. That's like the leading training facility, and they're building a new one, so I'm really excited about that. And we really invest into the Hearth and Patio Barbecue Association, the National Chimney Sweep Guild. Yes, there's still guilds in the world.
Another old road.
we send all of our guys there. They get certified in multiple different ways, and it's not just the boast that you have like the letters behind your name, but you get to learn a lot to what to look for. I still learn new things all the time.
That's great. And so you just made me realize, of course, this expands to stoves that you might have outside, like a barbecue kind of a situation. So there's lots of, there are probably all kinds of reasons that somebody would come your way.
It's an ever-changing industry, too, with government standards and everything with the stoves and what they have to be up to. And
you guys
there's always learning.
Yeah. So you guys are always staying on top of all that stuff, which is a big job. And,
Got to.
Yeah, and then that means people can come to you with confidence too, that you know what the rules are, and you know how to, the safety precautions, and then you do the maintenance, which is awesome. Mm-hmm. So where you guys are located? Where exactly in Monroe?
3570 Fancher Road is actually where we are right now. We're on the outskirts. We're in Orleans County, but we serve all of Monroe County and surrounding counties.
Nice.
We'll go anywhere within an hour and even farther as long as we, work it out with the customer and understand what we're willing to do. We have, we're working on a little project where we actually will be moving to Monroe County, though, soon.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, hopefully to break ground next year on a building.
Very, very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
We hope to be there to help you celebrate when you do a little groundbreaking.
I see these ribbon cutting things. We're going to get the biggest scissors and the biggest ribbon ever.
And we'll be right there with you. And people can't see your beautiful smiles, but both of you have just wonderful smiles, especially when you're talking about this. Very exciting. Mm-hmm. And congratulations on 8 years.
Thank you.
And then next year, you're going to be slouching toward a decade of doing this, which is pretty awesome. And
it flew by.
Yeah. So what I didn't hear an answer to yet is, so how is it working with each? I mean, you guys are husband and wife, correct?
Yes, we are. We've been together for 17 years, so we kind of
That's awesome. Great.
know each other pretty well, I would hope.
Mm-hmm.
It's got its challenges, I won't lie, for sure. We bring our work home with us at times, but we're really trying to separate and have our family life, and we're growing our company to get to the point where we can focus more on our family. And and it's also been a blessing because I can take the time off to focus on my kids when I need to and still be a full part of the business too. So
it's a very challenging thing that I've had to learn to let go a little bit. When you care so much about something, both your family and that, it's like the only way my family can make it is if I was at the business, but I just had to sort of let somebody else do it. I was always worried about it being perfect, and somebody else had to learn to be perfect like I want to be. So it was really hard to make another Jason in the field, if you will. So I've been very lucky with some great staff lately, though. What was really an eye-opening moment was when you're the sole owner and operator at the same time. I injured myself. I popped my bicep off my arm, and I wasn't able to do this kind of work for 8 months.
Oh, my goodness.
So we had to sort of let people do the work, and I had to be there as a coach. And we've been very fortunate with the crew we have right now. We have a guy that's very, very prone to do the maintenance, and he's got a great inspection eye, and he's been good at diagnosing stuff. And we have another guy that's just very good at the installation portion of it.
That's great. So you've got a wonderful team, and it's clear that you guys have a wonderful marriage as well as a wonderful business partnership, and that kind of magic doesn't happen often.
Thank you.
So congratulations to both of you. Yeah, 17 years. Way to go. Lovely. It's really, really terrific and rare in this day and age. And if people want to reach you, people are listening and they're like, I need a chimney sweep. I need help getting a stove. I need my stove maintained. How do they reach you? I see a couple of numbers, but I want you to say what you're comfortable saying publicly. How do they reach you?
585-638-0300 is our main line that will get you to the office and can get you directed to, the appointment, or try and filter out what you need and set up a consultation or whatever. www.bigashstoves.com also will give you a great idea of what we offer and get you directed to our email at office@bigashstoves.com.
Beautiful.
There's also a contact submission on our website that they can...
A form that they can fill out.
They can submit, and it comes right to us, and even gets down to the nitty-gritty as far as what the best time of day is to contact you and whatnot. So
wonderful. Yeah. So you're easy to reach.
Yes.
And just to say those again, that's bigashstoves.com, bigashstoves.com, office number 585-638-0300. That's 638-0300. Jason and Julie Toomey, owners of Big Ash Fireplaces Stoves, thank you guys so much for joining us here today on Business Voice.
Thank you for having us.
You're very welcome. You're very, very welcome. All right, don't go away. We're going to be right back. Don't flip that dial.
Do you ever question how much value you get for the money you spend? Funerals can be expensive, and you should feel confident getting what you paid for. Bartolomeo and Prado Funeral Home promises to deliver. From expert guidance to a warm, inviting facility to handling all the details during a difficult time. Their priority is to create a meaningful tribute for your loved one and for you to feel that you spent wisely. When you're in need, call Bartolomeo and Prado Funeral Home, 720-6000.
If you're looking for an opportunity to play a vital role in the fast-growing field of healthcare, then consider earning a degree in medical reimbursement and coding from Bryant and Stratton College. With curriculum built around the same standards and software used in the industry, you'll graduate with the skills and confidence needed to sit for key certification exams required by employers. And this program is now offered in a new blended learning format, combining the best of instructor-led face-to-face classroom instruction with virtual learning, giving you the flexibility to earn your degree in a way that best suits your schedule and life. Plus, thanks to Career Life Prep, you'll have a team to help chart your path, learn the soft skills employers are looking for, gain valuable professional connections, and enjoy career services support for life. So learn more about a career in medical reimbursement and coding today at bryanstratton.edu. Bryant and Stratton College, for every and in life. For important information and disclosures, please visit bryanstratton.edu/disclosures. Bryant and Stratton College complies with applicable state authorization regulations for distance education in all other states.
If you're looking to market and grow your business, make new business connections, and give back to the community in a meaningful way, consider joining the Greece Regional Chamber of Commerce. We're the largest suburban chamber in Monroe County, and we offer networking, education, marketing, insurance, and advocacy. You do not need to live or work in Greece to join. Our members come from throughout the region. In short, we're better together, and together, we're moving business forward. Visit greecechamber.org or call 585-227-7272 to join today.
Tell advertisers you heard about them on WYSL, AM 1040 and 92.1 FM and 95.5 West.
Welcome back. You're listening to Business Voice, a program of the Greece Regional Chamber of Commerce, sponsored by Bartolomeo and Prado Funeral Homes. As always, I'm your host, Sarah Lentini, and I'm delighted to welcome my next guests here in studio with me. William Bianchi, who is the agency owner of Health and Wealth Advisors, and Diane Pusateri, healthcare consultant and a New York State licensed agent and broker with Health and Wealth Advisors. Welcome, guys. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Sarah.
All right. So you guys have been in business for a while, and you've got kind of an interesting business model, and Health and Wealth begs explanation as it is. So, Bill, do you want to start by just sort of explaining the model?
We've been in business for 17 years now. The model, I would say, is just to help clients. So I started off working as a financial advisor with my mother, Marilyn Bianchi, who has recently passed. But we started off...
Our condolences to you.
Thank you. We started off in my old bedroom with just the goal of helping clients, with their financial needs, just planning, and really just creating a picture and a goal for them to achieve, their often retirement goals, but any financial goal that they may have. That expanded as we found out that their needs varied, and we started to learn the landscape about Medicare and dealing with different retirees. We really wanted to become an expert in that, and we found that was its own field altogether. Somewhere down the line, I got convinced that I should look into property casualty. I was presented some offers. I'd never want to turn down an opportunity, and I always feel like, expanding your knowledge base is beneficial. So I looked into that, and I ended up getting licensed with that. Obviously, that's a huge need. Everybody needs insurance. Nobody likes insurance, but when you need it, it's a great comfort. And so we started to offer that and add that to our practice. So, we were merging our wealth management, which is investments, and protecting your wealth, which is your physical property. But the most important piece of our wealth is our health. And, that ultimately drives most of our conversations is we're looking in, as much as we talk about finances and numbers, most of our conversations are about health as far as your mental, emotional, physical health, and how finances plays a role in that. But it's really about utilizing those tools, whether it's insurance, whether it's your investment in the overall plan, to achieve that end goal, which is your health, which is being physically healthy, but just emotionally and mentally healthy. Because that's what money's there for, is for that security.
Beautifully said. That is what money's there for. What the heck is the point of all this money that everybody's trying to make, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's to make sure that we're as protected, but ultimately as free to enjoy our lives as possible. And, of course, health insurance, therefore, is a big part of the health piece, and that's where you come in. At least I believe that's where you come in, right, Diane?
Well, actually, I have a couple different hats I wear there. I've been in personal and commercial lines insurance for over 15 years and have really enjoyed helping people protect their property, understand their risk, that type of thing. And then a couple of years ago, I connected with Bill and really got into the Medicare field, also with Jane Aarons. And as Bill said, making sure people understand what options they have, what's important to them in terms of care and coverage, that type of thing. It can be very confusing. And I want to be the person, their person that somebody can come to when they have that need and they need things, explained and figured out, and how do I defray costs and coverages and just understanding. There's a lot to know, and that's why you need a license for this type of thing, because there's a lot of extensive training required to make sure we can help people get what they need. Yeah,
and you're not just a healthcare broker; you're a Medicare broker.
Correct, Medicare broker and personal and commercial lines. Yeah. And I'm a certified insurance counselor, so I have had additional training to help make sure that I can provide the expert knowledge that you need.
And that's terrific, and it is so needed. And in the Medicare space, I can imagine it's a growing need, right? I mean, I remember years ago we were being prepped and primed for the fact that we have an aging population, right? We have all these baby boomers and now beyond that are hitting ages heretofore sort of not seen, at least not in these large numbers, and people are living longer, and and all that is great on the one hand, but it creates a real groundswell when it comes to the Medicare population. So, are you seeing that? Is there more and more demand for your services?
Oh, extremely. Not only is the population growing, but just generally things are becoming more automated. People are left to make decisions on their own, and we rely on algorithms and technology to kind of carry us there. But most of the time, we find that there's huge gaps within that. And as Diane was explaining, our job is really to just put a personal face to that and give you a chance to have a real conversation. And AI, whatever you want to call algorithms, are sophisticated, but they don't process and they can't handle nuance yet the way that the human mind can. So as far as they can get to a certain point on their own, and everybody wants to do things on their own because it's convenient and it seems easy. But as soon as they open that up, especially when it comes to healthcare, you don't want to take chances and you don't want that vague ambiguity. So we're finding that more and more people are engaging us, and quite frankly, as things scale up and we find that there's less small companies servicing things, and the landscape suggests that we're going to have call centers and they rely on technology more, we have to be that person, that bridge that brings that personal touch. So where we find other companies are scaling back their services and really relying on automation, and we don't blame them for that. We have to pick up that slack. And it really I feel like we're more viable, we're more valuable today than ever, and that's, across the landscape. Everybody's being threatened by technology, but as we've said they've been talking about technology for hundreds of years. It always seems to turn. We still need each other, and that makes us feel really good.
I'm so glad to hear that you guys are focused on good old-fashioned face-to-face or, on the phone, but person-to-person customer service. It's something that I've said on the show before, and I'll say it again. I think the businesses that are going to excel and really stand out above all the others are the ones that provide great personal customer service moving forward, because it is disappearing.
Yeah, so if you call Health and Wealth Advisors, we're going to answer the phone. Yeah, You're going to get a human being on the phone. And if you reach out to me, text or email or call, I'm going to get back to you. I'm going to do my best to answer your question. Or I'm going to say, I need another day. And find the answer and the information that you need. So that's what we pride ourselves on is that service, is that personal connection, and that long-term relationship, whether it's with financial planning or your Medicare or your personal or commercial insurance. So that's what we're there for.
Yeah, that's great. And you're a one-stop, and you've been located in Greece, and I know that you've got a new location, so it would be great to make people aware of your new home. And how they can reach you. And
we have a ribbon cutting on Thursday that you're going to be assisting us with, because we've expanded and we have additional space to help our clients. So we're very excited about that.
Yeah, we moved a little west, so we're on Dewey Avenue, just south of Stone Road, 2800 Dewey Avenue. Many may recognize it as the old satellite library, which we were sad to see them go, but we were able to expand. So 2800 Dewey Avenue, pretty convenient. We encourage you to stop in. We're real people. And in fact, sometimes you get lucky and see us in the grocery store and things like that. So there's no place for us to hide if we screw something up. That is basically what I want to convey.
You're definitely part of the fabric of the community. You're here. You're physical. You're not artificial intelligence.
Exactly.
You're not just a remote operator on the other part of the globe.
And we're local. That's the thing. Sometimes when you call these numbers or you work online, you don't really know who you're dealing with or where they are. And I'm your neighbor. Yep. I'm right there with you. I'm a business owner, just like some of the people that I help. So. We pride ourselves in that. We're here for you.
Yeah, Dewey Avenue sounds great. And I'm sure there's plenty of free parking, so that's not an issue either.
Free parking. We'll throw in an extra space for you for luxury parking. And we have coffee, water. Just come in and chat. Our staff's bored half the time, so just talk their ear off.
Wonderful. That's great. And so, one of the things that I would like to just have you mention, if it's okay, is just that we do have, we're not quite there yet, but open enrollment is coming.
Yes, and there's a lot of regulations and things like that, but certainly every year between October 15th and December 7th, if you are on Medicare or approaching the age, you can certainly start reaching out, and we can set up appointments with you to talk about what your options are. What do you need for next year? And one thing we take pride in, too, is throughout the year, when things change, maybe you have a health scare or something has happened in your life. That's what we're there for. Let's see what we can do to help you and to navigate the minefield of your health care.
And do people need to wait until, what was the date? October
15th is when you actually can start talking about plans for 2024.
So with that said, I think it's very important that anybody that's maybe on Medicare or new to Medicare, we have a lot of our reps that are out there doing Medicare 101 presentations. So I would encourage anybody, even if you've been on Medicare for a significant amount of time, attend one of those meetings, because what you will gather is you'll gather the knowledge that will help you make a more informed decisions. It's not going to be product specific, but it's going to give you understanding of what Medicare offers as a base level, and it'll really enhance your ability to make that decision in open enrollment. So I can't encourage anybody enough. Do the Medicare 101. You're not going to get any product. You're not going to get sold anything. You're just going to get free information from somebody that actually cares, and that'll make you much more equipped for open enrollment, not just this year, but all of them moving forward.
Yeah, because some of it is even about how to transition, especially when in a year where your birthday, when you're hitting age 65.
There's a lot of rules, a lot of things that you need to know.
Yeah, and you want to do it right, because there are some potential penalties, I believe, if you don't do it quite right, even if it was a mistake.
So
you need some good guidance.
Right, Sarah.
Yeah. So are there Medicaid 101 courses that are scheduled or that you're planning to schedule? How would people tap into that, and how do they reach you? I know you're on Dewey Avenue. Right? So
yes, we're on Dewey Avenue. So actually you can visit our website at hwa.agency, and nobody knows this, but I'm going to put a little note that we're going to put our schedule of our Medicare 101s on the website. That's brand new. We just made that decision right here. You guys are part of that. So we're going to have that on the website. We always can call our office. It's at 585-349-3337. And then we do send out invites. So you may find an invitation in the mail. But once again, hwa.agency is a very convenient way. You can get a lot of general Medicare information there, but we'll have all of that posted so you can come in and learn a little bit more about Medicare.
That sounds great. And I know that people will be happy to know there's a place that they can come early to learn the rules, because you're right. The actual plan you pick is one thing. The enrollment is one thing, or the re-enrollment. But understanding the landscape is another. And
utilizing those benefits, because you're paying for them one way or another. So utilize your benefits.
And I don't want to make it sound dry. There's nothing more exciting than learning about Medicare for the first time. It is wall to wall. We have people just, they leave, they're pouring sweat, their hair's blown back. It's like being on a roller coaster. So I say bring it, but if you have, heart conditions or anything, you might want to stay home, because it's that exciting. So
No, it is a little different, no doubt. It's a little bit different than the regular, the regular health insurance arena, and it is an area where we're real grateful. There are good folks like you that can help explain the rules and the changes, because there are often changes as well from year to year. And we're going to send people to that website where you're.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's just say the website one more time.
hwa.agency. And I do want to, at the risk of sounding cheesy, there is nothing more rewarding in our business than actually helping somebody with Medicare. And we do a lot of things where we help people insure their homes and we help people achieve retirement goals, but there is no demographic or just community that is more appreciative, that is in more of need of this information. And I can tell you that there's not an appointment that we walk out of that we don't actually feel good about what we just did. And it's not a miracle. It's certainly not something that's overly complicated. Most people can understand it, but man, it's rewarding on our end. So please come in, talk to us. Even if it's if you feel like you're wasting your time, you're absolutely not. It makes us feel good, and we enjoy what we do.
Beautiful. All right. Once again, that's hwa.agency, www.hwa.agency. William Bianchi, Diane Pusateri, thank you guys so much for being with us here today on Business Voice.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
You're very welcome. All right, that just about does it for us here today on Business Voice. I'm Sarah Lentini, your host and also the president and CEO of the Greece Regional Chamber. I want to thank our presenting sponsor, Bartolomeo and Parado Funeral Homes, and all of our other sponsors as well. We couldn't do this show without you and without them. And I also want to thank my guests, starting with New York State Assemblyman Josh Jensen, then Jason and Julie Toomey of Big Ash Fireplaces Stoves, and, of course, Bill Bianchi and Diane Pusateri of Health and Wealth Advisors. All right, we've got plenty more coming next month, and we hope that you join us. And in the interim, please check us out on the web at greecechamber.org. That's greecechamber.org. And until then, be well.
You've been listening to Business Voice. The Greece Regional Chamber of Commerce serves businesses, nonprofits, and individuals throughout the region, focusing on promoting economic and community development and serving as the voice for business. The Chamber offers networking, education, advocacy, community events, and business services. It serves as an important platform for business leaders and citizens to come together in support of common goals.